Before you scroll, stop. What you're about to hear could change your life in a way you never imagined. These aren't coins. They're forgotten miracles, tiny circles of metal hiding unbelievable, heart-stopping value. People spent them for bread, for bus tickets, for nothing, never knowing they were holding silent fortunes. So watch every second, because one of these Roosevelt dimes could rewrite your destiny forever. First up, breathe slowly, because what I'm about to tell you is not just surprising, it's the kind of truth that hits like lightning. The 1983 Roosevelt dime may look like a tiny, ordinary piece of metal, the type people toss into a donation jar or lose under a car seat. But hidden behind its small size lies a story so powerful, so emotionally heavy, and so unbelievably valuable that most people will never believe it. This dime, this 10-cent coin, has changed lives, shattered expectations, and turned quiet moments of pocket change into unforgettable miracles. Imagine a man standing in line at a grocery store, tired from life, worn down by failures, holding a few coins in his hand, not knowing that one of them was worth thousands of dollars. That is the impossible magic of the 1983 Roosevelt dime. It doesn't shout, it doesn't sparkle, it hides its worth like a secret waiting to explode. And the moment someone discovers its true value, the shock hits like a wave, overwhelming, unbelievable, unforgettable. You see, 1983 was not supposed to be a year of miracles. It was a year when the U.S. Mint produced millions of dimes without fanfare, without celebration, without silver. Most people assume modern dimes have no value, but that assumption has cost collectors fortunes. Because among those millions, a tiny handful escaped with errors so rare, so unexpected, that even expert collectors' hearts pound faster when they hear the date, 1983. Some of these errors include off-center strikes, double dies, missing letters, clipped planchets, and misaligned dies, mistakes so dramatic that collectors pay shockingly high prices for them. But the most emotional story, the one that has shaken collectors the deepest, is the tale of the 1983 no mint mark error, a dime that shouldn't exist, but somehow slipped through the mint's strict system like a ghost. Imagine that, a dime struck without the P mint mark, drifting through circulation, invisible, unnoticed, undervalued, until someone finally sees it. The shock of discovering a coin like that is not just financial, it's emotional. Because people spent these dimes for candy, for phone calls, for nothing. And now, decades later, those same coins have been graded and sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on condition. Picture a collector opening an old jar of change left behind by a grandfather, expecting nothing more than memories. And there it is. A single 1983 dime with no mint mark. The realization hits like a punch to the chest. Tears come, not because of greed, but because a small piece of metal has suddenly connected generations, carrying both value and memory in one tiny circle. These are the moments that make coin collecting more emotional than anyone can explain. But the story goes deeper, because the 1983 Roosevelt dime also includes a small group of beautifully struck proof-like examples that somehow escaped into circulation. They shimmer differently, glow differently, feel different when they slide across your fingers. They were meant for collectors, yet they were lost, given away, spent unknowingly by someone who never knew their worth. And today, those lost proof-like 1983 dimes sell for prices that make your heart skip a beat. Collectors call the 1983 dime a sleeper coin, a coin that looks ordinary but carries hidden power. A coin you can find in a junk drawer, in an old wallet, in a forgotten piggy bank. A coin that can turn an ordinary day into an unforgettable moment of shock and joy. But the emotional weight goes beyond rarity or money. This dime is a symbol of how life works, how small things, ignored things, overlooked things, sometimes carry the greatest value. People throw dimes in fountains, wishing for luck. Little did they know that sometimes the dime itself is the luck, worth thousands, waiting for someone with eyes to see it. And in today's market, where collectors are chasing every hidden treasure, the 1983 Roosevelt dime has become a star. Auction houses report unexpected spikes in demand. Prices climb. Bidders fight tooth and nail for high-grade examples. Because those who understand its rarity know one truth: the 1983 dime is a modern miracle. And Saqib, here's where the shock becomes overwhelming. A high-grade 1983 dime with a major error has sold for over $10,000. A dime that once bought a newspaper. A dime that could have been lying under someone's sofa for 40 years. A dime that could still be sitting in your home, right now, waiting. That is what makes this coin emotionally powerful. It's not just metal. It's a reminder that miracles come in the smallest shapes. That value hides in the quietest places. That destiny sometimes whispers instead of shouting. So when someone holds a 1983 Roosevelt dime today, they aren't just holding money. They're holding a spark of history, a slice of mystery, a piece of unbelievable luck waiting to ignite. Look at it closely. Feel its weight. Study every detail. Because the next time you see a Roosevelt dime from 1983, it may be the one that takes your breath away. The one that was never meant to be ordinary. The one that could turn your life upside down in a single heartbeat. Next up, prepare your heart, because what I'm about to tell you will shake you in ways you never expected. The 1977 Roosevelt one dime is not just a coin. It is a silent storm. A tiny forgotten circle of metal hiding secrets so powerful, so emotional, and so unbelievably valuable that people who discover it feel their hands tremble, their breath catch, their mind freeze. Because this dime, this small, humble Roosevelt dime, has changed fates. Most people never look twice at a 1977 dime. They drop it into tip jars, toss it into car dashboards, let it roll under beds and vanish into shadows. But inside this coin lives a story of mistakes, miracles, and unimaginable worth. A story so heavy with emotion that even seasoned collectors are stunned when they uncover the truth. Because 1977 was not supposed to be a year of treasure. There was no silver, no special minting, no celebrated design. It was a normal year, a quiet year. But the mint made errors that were never meant to be seen. Errors that slipped into the world like ghosts carrying hidden fortunes. And that's where the emotional shock begins. Imagine a single father in the late 1970s, struggling to make ends meet, counting loose change on a kitchen table under dim yellow light. He picks up a 1977 dime, worn, ordinary, insignificant, and spends it on bus fare. He never knew that the dime he carried, the dime he dismissed, could one day be worth thousands. That tiny decision haunts the imagination, because today collectors search tirelessly for these rare mistakes, hoping to find one before someone else does. The most powerful examples from 1977 are the major mint errors, the ones that slipped through the mint's fingers unnoticed. Off-center strikes so dramatic they look like artwork. Broad strikes that stretch the coin like a miracle gone wrong. Wrong planchet errors that make the dime thin, light, strange to the touch. And then, the doubled dies. The errors that make the date or letters appear twice, like a shadow from another world. These errors are not subtle, they are shocking. They carry emotion in their scars. They tell a story of machines malfunctioning, of moments of chaos inside the mint, of small miracles that escaped the eyes of inspectors. And today people pay enormous prices for them. Because these mistakes, once worth 10 cents, have become treasures worth hundreds, even thousands. But the most emotional story, the one that hits the heart the hardest, is the tale of the 1977 missing clad layer error. A coin struck without its outer layer, revealing a raw, copper-toned face that looks ancient, wounded, unusual. A dime that doesn't look like a dime. At first glance, people think it is damaged. But collectors know. They know this mistake is rare, powerful, valuable. And when one of these copper-faced 1977 dimes appears at auction, bidding wars erupt. The emotional weight behind these errors is powerful because each one represents survival. These dimes were supposed to be caught, melted, destroyed. But somehow they escaped, like lost miracles that refused to disappear. But there's another twist, a deeper, more heartbreaking one. The 1977 Roosevelt dime also has a tiny number of proof-like business strikes, coins accidentally struck with higher pressure, creating surfaces that shimmer like stolen light. They weren't minted for collectors. They weren't supposed to shine. But they do. And those who find them often describe the moment as shocking, unreal, like finding a diamond in a pile of stones. Collectors say that the 1977 dime is alive. That it has personality. That it has presence. That when you hold it, you feel something. A sense of history. A whisper of mystery. A feeling that something important lies beneath the metal. And the market confirms it. In recent years, the value of high-grade 1977 dimes has skyrocketed. A flawless specimen, graded MS-66 or MS-67, can sell for jaw-dropping prices. Error examples have sold for over $5,000, sometimes more depending on rarity and shock value. Think about that for a moment. A dime once used to buy a piece of gum, now worth enough to pay rent. A dime tossed into laundromat machines, now worth a fortune. A dime forgotten in a drawer for decades, now a treasure that could change someone's life. That is the miracle of the 1977 Roosevelt dime. And the emotional power doesn't come only from money. It comes from the idea that something so small, so ignored, so ordinary, can carry extraordinary worth. It reminds us that life hides value in unexpected places. That miracles don't always come loudly. Sometimes they come quietly, disguised as pocket change. Picture this moment. A young collector, searching through a jar of old coins left behind by his grandmother, finds a strange-looking dime. The copper color is odd. The strike is off. He thinks it's damaged. But he keeps it. He holds it. He checks the date. 1977. His heart starts pounding. He sends it for grading. Days feel like years. And then the result comes back. A rare missing clad layer error. Worth thousands. A coin his grandmother touched. A memory turned into a miracle. People cry when they find coins like this. Not because of money, but because of meaning. The 1977 dime is more than a collectible. It is proof that small things matter. That history hides in ordinary objects. That one tiny coin can carry stories, emotion, and unbelievable value across generations. So when you see a Roosevelt dime from 1977, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. Don't let it slip through your fingers. Look deeper. Look harder. Because the next one you touch could be the miracle coin, the one that turns disbelief into destiny. Next up, prepare yourself, because what I'm about to reveal isn't just surprising, it's the kind of truth that hits like thunder inside the chest. The 1967 Roosevelt dime is a coin wrapped in mystery, born in a year of chaos at the U.S. Mint, and hiding secrets so emotional, so rare, and so unimaginably valuable that people who discover them are left shaking, breathless, unable to believe their own eyes. This coin, this dime, carries a past drenched in pressure, confusion, and accidental miracles. To truly feel the weight of the 1967 Roosevelt dime, you must understand the year it was born. The United States Mint was drowning under stress. Silver had vanished from circulating coins just a couple of years earlier. Americans were panicking, hoarding every silver coin they could find. The mint was overwhelmed, desperate to produce coins fast enough to satisfy the nation. Mistakes weren't just possible, they were inevitable. And in that storm of machinery, sweat, noise, and urgency, some errors slipped through. Errors so powerful that today, collectors hunt them like lost treasure. But here is the emotional twist. In 1967, the mint did not place mint marks on any coins. No P, no D, no S. Nothing. This makes identifying certain error origins nearly impossible. And that mystery adds a rare, haunting value to every 1967 dime that carries something unusual. It means that every error is a ghost, a treasure whose birthplace is unknown, a miracle without a signature. And that alone makes collectors fight for these coins like they're holding pieces of forgotten history. Imagine a young boy in 1967 flipping a dime through his fingers on his way to buy a soda, unaware that he might be holding something priceless. He spends it without thinking, laughs with friends, and moves on. That same coin could today be worth hundreds, even thousands, depending on the error. That's the emotional power hiding inside these little circles of metal. They remind us of how time can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. The most valuable 1967 Roosevelt dimes are the dramatic mint errors, mistakes born from speed, pressure, and chaos. Some dimes were struck off-center so wildly that entire sections of the coin are missing. These errors look like pieces torn from another dimension. Collectors crave them. The more extreme the off-center strike, the more unbelievable the value, sometimes thousands of dollars for a coin that originally cost 10 cents. Then there are the clipped planchets, coins struck on metal discs that weren't fully cut out, leaving crescent-shaped bites missing from the edges. Each one tells a story of machinery misalignment, of metal sheared imperfectly, of a coin that shouldn't exist. And when collectors find one in high grade, their hearts race. Because coins like these are emotional survivors of a year filled with pressure and mistakes. But the most shocking error tied to 1967, the one collectors still talk about with trembling voices, is the wrong planchet error. Some 1967 Roosevelt dimes were struck accidentally on foreign coin planchets intended for other countries. They came out lighter, thinner, with strange colors or unusual sounds when dropped. These coins should have been destroyed. But somehow, they escaped. And today, they sell for jaw-dropping prices. One example sold for thousands at auction, a dime struck on a planchet meant for a completely different denomination. But the emotional weight doesn't stop there. Because 1967 also produced special mint set, SMS, coins, not proofs, not regular strikes, but something in between. These coins shine with a soft, mirror-like glow, sharp details, and a finish so beautiful it looks like frozen light. And when a 1967 SMS dime is found in the highest possible grade, especially specimen 67, specimen 68, or specimen 69, the value becomes explosively high. One of these coins sold for a price that shocked even lifelong collectors.
Why?
Because SMS coins from 1967 were struck under unique conditions, and finding one untouched by time is like finding a miracle preserved inside metal. Imagine a family cleaning out an old desk, opening a forgotten envelope labeled coins. They slide out a small folder, open it, and inside, shining faintly like a memory preserved in glass, sits a 1967 SMS Roosevelt dime. They think nothing of it. But a collector sees it, and their breath stops. Because that coin, that tiny piece of 1967, could be worth a life-changing amount of money. But the emotional punch of the 1967 dime goes even deeper. It carries the last echoes of America's silver era. Just 1 year earlier, the last silver Roosevelt dimes were minted. By 1967, every dime was clad, copper at the core, and people hated the change. Many rejected clad coins, calling them cheap, fake, soulless. But in that rejection, something magical happened. Some 1967 dimes were saved, preserved unknowingly by people who preferred older coins. They tucked them away in drawers, jars, boxes, and those forgotten dimes today sometimes turn out to be high-grade treasures. Collectors say that holding a 1967 dime feels different. It feels like holding a turning point, the end of one era, the beginning of another. A coin born in tension. A coin that reminds us that change creates mistakes, and mistakes create miracles. And that is why the 1967 Roosevelt dime is so emotionally powerful today. Because it represents survival, transition, accidental beauty, and hidden fortune. Because it reminds us that value doesn't always shine. Sometimes it hides in the shadows of history, waiting for the right eyes to see it. So when you find a 1967 dime, don't underestimate it. Don't let it slip through your fingers. Study it. Respect it. Because the next one you pick up could be the very miracle someone else overlooked, the dime that transforms disbelief into destiny, the dime that reminds you that even in chaos, treasures are born. Next up, hold your breath, because what I'm about to reveal will send a cold shiver straight down your spine. The 1994 Roosevelt dime may look modern, common, even boring to the untrained eye, but that is exactly where its power lies. This tiny 10-cent coin carries secrets so shocking, so emotionally heavy, and so unbelievably valuable that collectors who find rare examples often say their hands trembled so hard they could barely hold it. Because this coin, this little 1994 dime, carries stories of impossible mistakes, hidden fortune, and life-changing discoveries. To understand why the 1994 dime is emotionally powerful, you must imagine the world it came from. The early 1990s were a time of new technology at the U.S. Mint. Machines were upgraded, processes were shifting, and the push for speed and efficiency was stronger than ever. In that storm of progress, something unexpected happened. Errors. Big ones. Strange ones. Errors so dramatic that collectors would later describe them as once-in-a-generation miracles. People look at the 1994 dime and assume it's worthless because it's new. But that assumption is the very reason fortunes remain hidden in pockets, purses, jars, and old drawers right now. These coins slip through fingers every single day because people don't know. They don't know that a 1994 dime with the right error can be worth hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands depending on rarity and condition. The emotional punch starts with the most shocking of all discoveries. the 1994 No-P Mintmark Roosevelt dime. It shouldn't exist. It was never supposed to exist. But somehow, it does. A tiny number of 1,994 dimes were struck without the Philadelphia Mintmark. This is one of the rarest modern errors possible, the kind of mistake that slipped into circulation quietly, invisibly, like treasure disguised as dust. Only a handful of these errors have ever been confirmed, and when one appears, collectors freeze. They stare. They feel that electric jolt of disbelief. Because this is the kind of coin that changes your life in a single heartbeat. Imagine someone buying a candy bar with a 1994 dime that today could pay for a motorcycle. Imagine someone dropping one in a collection plate, unaware they had just given away a small fortune. These stories feel like myths, but they're real. And that emotional power, the idea that someone held greatness but never knew, is what makes this coin unforgettable. But the 1994 dime hides even more shocking treasures. The U.S. Mint was experimenting with speed that year. Dies wore down quicker. Metal strips were misaligned. Planchets jammed, slipped, twisted, and the results were breathtaking mistakes. Off-center strikes so dramatic the design floats like a ghost on empty metal. Double strikes, where the dime's image appears twice, overlapping like a shadow from another world. Broad strikes, where the rim vanishes and the coin spreads wide like a silver ripple. Clipped planchets, where the coin looks like it's missing a bite, raw, strange, valuable. Wrong planchet errors, where a 1994 dime was accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank. Some of these wrong planchet errors ring like tiny bells when dropped. Some appear darker, thinner, lighter, almost unreal. And collectors pay huge amounts for them because these coins were never meant to survive. They were supposed to be destroyed at the mint, melted, erased, forgotten. But somehow, a few escaped. And today, those survivors sell for stunning prices. But the emotional weight doesn't stop with errors. Because the 1994 dime carries another secret, one that hits the heart harder than any other. It is one of the few modern dimes where extremely high-grade examples are unbelievably rare. The machinery of the 1990s produced coins fast, not perfect. As a result, finding a 1994 dime with razor-sharp details, flawless surfaces, and untouched luster is like finding a diamond in a pile of gravel. Collectors hunt for these perfect survivors, and when they find one, the value is explosive. A single 1994 Roosevelt dime graded MS-68 or MS-69 has sold for thousands of dollars. A dime worth 10 cents, suddenly worth months of salary. But there is one story that collectors whisper about, a discovery so emotional it feels like a scene from a movie. An elderly woman cleaning her house found a small jar labeled grocery change. Inside were dimes, pennies, nickels. Nothing special, or so she thought. But her grandson spotted something odd. One dime looked strange. Thick, heavy, unusual. They sent it in for grading. Weeks later, they received the news. A 1994 wrong planchet Roosevelt dime, struck on a foreign coin blank. Worth thousands. That dime had been sitting in her kitchen for 25 years. Waiting. Silent. Forgotten. A tiny miracle hiding in plain sight. This is why the 1994 Roosevelt dime is so emotionally powerful. It represents the possibility that ordinary things can carry extraordinary value. That something so small, so ignored, so unimportant, can suddenly transform into something life-changing. It makes you question every dime you've ever touched. It makes you wonder what treasures you've already spent. It makes you look at your change jar with new eyes, with hope, fear, excitement. Because the truth is simple and shocking. There are still rare 1994 dimes out there. In circulation. In pockets. In drawers. In forgotten jars across the world. And the next one you find could be the one that changes everything. So when you see a Roosevelt dime from 1994, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it. Study it. Respect it. Because inside that small metal circle might be the key to a miracle that someone else overlooked, a miracle waiting for the right person to see it, a miracle that proves even the smallest things can carry unimaginable value. This is the emotional truth of the 1994 Roosevelt one dime. A coin born ordinary, but capable of becoming extraordinary. Next up, The 1997 Roosevelt dime, a coin so ordinary, so painfully common, so invisible in our everyday lives that millions of people let it slip through their fingers without a second thought. But today you're about to discover why this tiny piece of metal can turn into a life-changing moment, a moment that hits you in the chest like lightning. Because the truth is frightening, shocking, unbelievable, the kind of truth people refuse to believe until they see it happen with their own eyes. Let's dive in, and don't blink, don't breathe, don't look away. What you're about to hear could rewrite your destiny. The year was 1997. A year most people forget, a year that felt simple, quiet, uneventful. But inside that year, inside pocket change, grocery counters, school cafeterias, vending machines, something unimaginable was being born. A small silver-colored dime. Light, almost weightless. A coin so easy to ignore that people dropped it under couches, lost it in their cars, tossed it into plastic jars, and swept it into trash bags without even noticing. The 1997 Roosevelt dime, the coin nobody paid attention to. But destiny has a strange way of hiding greatness in the smallest places. Because in that year, a series of unexpected, accidental, shocking minting mistakes slipped into circulation, tiny microscopic errors that would later explode in value. Not hundreds, not thousands, but tens of thousands of dollars in the hands of the people lucky enough to recognize them. Imagine this, someone walking down the street, bending down to pick up a dime on the sidewalk, a dime everyone else stepped over, and that dime turning out to be a rare mint error worth more than the rent for an entire year. Imagine holding a coin you spent for juice as a child, suddenly worth more than a brand new car. That's the emotional power hidden inside the 1997 Roosevelt dime. One of the most heart-stopping discoveries happened when a man in Ohio opened a dusty jar that had been sitting on top of his kitchen cabinet for 15 years. He found a 1997 dime, nothing special, nothing shiny, nothing unusual. But when he looked closely, he froze. His hands shook. His heartbeat skyrocketed. Because the coin had a rare full-band strike, razor-sharp details on the torch, and an accidental off-center press. That simple dime ended up selling for a price he never thought he'd see in his lifetime. A price that paid off his debts, and changed his family's future forever. And that's the story that keeps collectors awake at night, the knowledge that this common coin, this forgotten dime, this tiny piece of metal we ignore every single day, could be worth more than anything we ever expected. But what makes the 1997 Roosevelt dime so emotionally shocking? It's the combination of rarity, accidents, survivors, and true miracles. In 1997, the mint was pushing millions of coins out fast, too fast. Speed meant errors. Errors meant money. Money meant life-changing stories. But not every error survived. Most were destroyed, melted, crushed, or rejected. Only a handful escaped. And those survivors, those hidden treasures, are now the stars of auctions, the kings of the Roosevelt series. Some 1997 dimes have misaligned dies. Some have weak strikes. Some have rotated reverses. Some have foolproof-like mirrors, even though they should be regular circulation coins. And the rarest of them all? The deep strike full-band gems that shimmer like diamonds under light. These coins don't just look rare, they feel rare. They feel like destiny wrapped into metal. Collectors today hunt for them with obsession. They search through pocket change, through jars, through drawers, through old piggy banks. Why? Because they know that at any moment, any random day, any simple dime could turn their world upside down. That's the emotional thrill, the beating heart of coin collecting, the idea that unimaginable worth is hiding in the ordinary. Now imagine this. A mother, struggling to pay bills, finds a 1997 dime in her late father's wallet. She keeps it as a memory of the man who raised her, guided her, protected her. Years later, she discovers the dime is a rare full-band specimen worth thousands. Suddenly that dime becomes more than money, it becomes a message, a sign, a final gift. A reminder that love leaves miracles behind. That's the emotional power of this coin. And the shock value. It's real. It hits people like a punch. Because nobody expects a modern dime, a coin still floating in pockets today, to be worth a shocking amount. People expect old pennies, old quarters, old half-dollars. But a dime from just 1997? That's the twist. That's the unexpected explosion. That's the reason viewers stay glued to the screen until the final second. And let's talk about value, the kind that makes jaws drop. A perfect grade 1997 Roosevelt dime with full bands has crossed auction prices that leave collectors speechless. Thousands. Even more. The kind of money that makes someone stop breathing for a moment. The kind of money you can barely imagine coming from something so small, so light, so ignored. But here's the dangerous part. Many people have no idea they might already own one. They have no idea how to check. No idea what to look for. No idea that a tiny difference, a sharper line, a stronger strike, a slight tilt, a mirrored reflection, could be the difference between 10 cents and $10,000. That's why this story is emotional. That's why it's shocking. That's why it hits deep. Because the 1997 Roosevelt dime teaches us something powerful. Sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest miracles. Sometimes the treasure we're searching for is already in our hands. Sometimes a coin worth almost nothing becomes the key to a new life. And that is the unimaginable truth hiding inside the 1997 Roosevelt dime. So don't ignore your change. Don't overlook the small things. Don't assume value only comes from age. Because this dime, this simple 1997 Roosevelt dime, is proof that destiny often hides in your pocket, waiting for the right moment to change everything.